Hello everyone! Today we're going to show the homework video for Module 4, Lesson 1. And the objective is to identify and draw points, lines, line segments, rays, and angles. Also to recognize points, lines, line segments, rays, and angles in various contexts and familiar figures. Please remember, look back at your problem set. The homework is almost always identical to the problem set. The only difference may be the letters or the numbers, and this will help you with your homework. So really, always look back at the problem set. Also, whatever you were able to complete during class in the problem set, we will circle for your homework. This video will show all of the homework, but you only have to do the problems that are circled. So for number 1, we're going to use these directions to draw a figure in this box. Now they called it a box, but it's actually a rectangle because a box is a three-dimensional shape. And we're going to go in order A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So for A, you're going to draw 2 points, W and X. So you can make them anywhere in this rectangle. I just chose here for W and here for X. You have to make sure you label them. B tells you to use a straight edge to draw W and X. So you can use a ruler, you can use a piece of paper, or you can free draw it as long as it begins at W and goes through X. Because it's a ray, you can see that it only has one arrow, and that's the symbol for ray. So the starting point is W, and then it goes on forever through X. C tells you to draw a new point that is not on the ray WX and label it Y. So I made Y here. D, draw WY. Now, there are no arrows, so that means it's a line segment because a segment has 2 specific endpoints. So WY, it begins at W, it ends at Y. It does not go on forever. E says to draw a point not on the ray WX or the line segment WY and call it Z. So I made it over here. And then it says to construct line, because it has 2 arrows, which means it goes on forever in both directions, Y, Z. So it goes on forever through Y, and it goes on forever through Z. So the arrows are after the endpoints. So that is line, Y, Z. Oop, let me go back. Uh-oh, it won't let me go back. Oh, no. Well, that's unfortunate. It did ask you to draw an angle and label it. So I'm sorry I don't get to do that, but we'll do it in this. So number 2, same thing, we go through H. Draw 2 points, W and X, we did that. Use a straight edge to draw line segment WX because there are no arrows, so it has a 2 specific endpoints, W and X. Draw a new point that's not on line segment WX and label it Y. Draw ray WY. So it begins at W, it goes on forever through Y because we have 1 arrow. So it begins at W and it goes on forever through Y. So you go through Y and make the arrow there. E, draw a new point that's not on ray WY or on the line, which is not a line, it's a line segment, WX. And you're going to label it Z. Construct line WZ. So it has 2 arrows, goes on forever in both directions, so it goes through W and through Z. It's asking you to identify Z, the angle, ZWX, by drawing an arc to indicate the position of the angle. So ZWX is the angle. This is the vertex. That's where the angle goes through, where the 2 lines or line segments meet, and the arc tells us that this is where the angle is. If our angle was YWZ, the arc would go farther to here, so we would know it would be this obtuse angle. But since it's ZWX, it's a smaller arc. Then it says identify another angle, so it has to be different than ZWX, and it can't be XWZ. It has to be different. By referencing the points that you have already drawn. So you have to have the symbol for angle, and I chose YWX, which would be an arc here. Okay? Now, they gave you 3 familiar figures, a clock, a die, a line segment. So you are going to label points on each figure and then use them to label a ray, a line segment, and an angle. So I labeled this A, B, C, D, E. So for the ray, and notice I have the symbol here, I did A, C. So it begins at A and it goes all the way through C. So that's ray, the symbol for ray, AC. For my line, I did B, C. And a line goes on forever in both directions. So it's through B and it's through C. And that's the symbol for line. My line segment, see how there are no arrows, is AD. A to D. A begins at A, ends at D. My angle is, see the symbol, AED. Now that is wrong because that's a line. So it must be AEC, but I can't change this now in the video. But that should be a C. Now for the die, I did Y or V, W, X, Y, Z. So the ray is X, Y. So it begins at X and goes through Y. The line, which goes on forever in both directions, is V, Z. See how it goes through V and through Z? The line segment is WX. It begins at W, ends at X. And the angle, and see our symbol for angle, is WXY. So WXY. For the line segment, I did QRST. So our ray is RS, begins at R and ends at S, begins at R and goes through S. Our line, and notice the symbol here, goes on forever in both directions, is QS. So it goes through Q and it goes through S. Our line segment is QT. It has a definite beginning, definite end, QT, no arrows. And our angle is TQR, TQR. Now, the extension is you can draw your own familiar figure. So I obviously went on the internet and I got a book, a gift, and a dresser. And it's the same idea. I labeled it HIJKL, and the ray is IH, begins at I, goes through H with an arrow. The line is LH, LH, goes through H, goes through L. Notice the two arrows. The line segment has a definite beginning, definite end, is LJ. And the angle, notice the symbol, is JLH. JLH. For the gift box, and you only have to do one, but I'm just showing you some examples. QRST. So the ray is TQ. It begins at T and goes all the way through Q. The line, which goes on forever in both directions, is ST, or SR, I'm sorry, goes through S and through R. The line segment, which has a definite beginning and end, is Q and S. And the angle, make sure you have these symbols, is SQT. And lastly, the dresser. I have a chocolate lab, and his name is Duke, so D-U-K-E. The ray is ED. Notice that it has only one arrow. It begins at E and goes all the way through D. The line has two arrows, goes on forever in both directions, is KU, goes on forever in both directions. And the angle, and you need that symbol, is UKE. And that's your homework.